Well, I mean, it's to be expected. This is a patient that was very sick. We really inherited a terrible economy, as you know, with a lot of problems, including loss of manufacturing and plants closed up all over the country. You know, we've lost 90,000 plants since NAFTA, if you think of that. 90,000. It's not even believable. And about 6 million jobs. And so it was a sick patient. It went through an operation on Liberation Day. And it's going to be a booming country, a very booming country. It's going to be amazing.
All right, Patty Culhane joins us now live from Washington, D.C. Patty, so listening to Donald Trump there, is this an attempt at damage control as his tariffs are impacting the market?
No, I think he truly believes that in the long run, it's going to be worth it. And it's important in this first term, he really cared about how the stock market was doing. He doesn't seem to care about that anymore. And I think it's important to put all of this into context for our global audience who might be going, why is he trying to tank the world economy? So NAFTA, he is correct. It closed 90,000 factories in the United States. And what that meant was in towns all over the country, there were these small towns that were completely reliant on, say, one factory that produced furniture or clothing or televisions. And when NAFTA happened, and it was simply cheaper to make those products in Mexico or potentially Canada, those factories just left. And so what you have all across the U.S. are these little towns that are shells of their former selves. So the Trump administration is saying, okay, we're all going to pay more for a little while, but then we're going to have all these factories back. A lot of economists think that equation is a little bit off. Donald Trump thinks he can put these factories in place in a year's time. That would be incredibly fast, because if you think about it, you have to find the land, get the permits. Even if you get rid of all the environmental regulations, it still takes time to build. And let's not forget, because all the equipment is going to cost more, then it's going to be a very expensive factory to make because of the tariffs. And so companies are going to have to weigh. Do you believe it's going to last for 4 years? Is it worth the investment? Is it worth paying much higher wages to Americans than you would, say, in Mexico? There's also some confusion. His aides have been talking to reporters saying this isn't a negotiating tactic. This is going to stick. This is our policy. We're going to stick to it. But on Air Force One, Donald Trump said that he'd be willing to negotiate with countries if they give the U.S. something phenomenal. So indicating that this could be optional. One other thing I think is important to note is this could change, and not if the president wants it to or not. Normally, historically, Congress in the Constitution has the right to establish tariffs. Because Congress has been so ineffective for so many decades, they've pretty much farmed that out through laws to the president. But now we're seeing a very prominent Republican, Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa, co-signing a bill with a Democrat that would basically strip this power away from the president, and basically he'd have to notify Congress. Congress would have to vote to approve those tariffs. So you could see, if the fallout continues, you could see Congress, which so far Republicans who control the House and the Senate haven't really wanted to stand up to the president on anything. If it gets bad enough, that calculus could change.
And Patty, beyond all the talk about tariffs aboard Air Force One, Trump also commented on a number of foreign policy issues. What else did we hear from him?
Well, he apparently had a phone call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today, and he said he's going to come to the U.S. Not sure exactly when that's going to be. He seemed to indicate it could be as early as next week. He said they needed to get the Gaza problem solved, to talk about getting the hostages back. And he did say this, which I thought was striking. Gaza has been under siege. A lot of people are dying. A lot of bad things are happening. Doesn't mention that the reason Gaza's under siege is because of an Israeli blockade, a very long-time blockade. But he did say that he's going to be meeting with Netanyahu. The other thing he talked about is Iran. He has been sending the message that he wants to see Iran return to some sort of nuclear deal. let's not forget, there was a nuclear deal that the U.S. was involved in. Donald Trump stepped away from that in his first term, but he's been making a lot of noise about wanting to see some kind of deal with Iran. And he said that he wants direct negotiations. He said at first Iran wanted to go through intermediaries, but now that they've come around, he wouldn't say how he knows that, but he wants to have direct negotiations with Iran. That is something that conservatives would have been appalled by if a Democrat did that. But Donald Trump is breaking the mold on what traditionally foreign policy is handled in the United States. Remember, his envoy met directly with Hamas, something that was pretty much unthinkable when it came to past presidents.
All right, that's Al Jazeera's Patty Culhane joining us live from Washington, D.C. Thanks so much, Patty.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.